Hey, hey, beloved tribe. I am so excited to be here with you today because the topic for this live dropped into my consciousness somewhere between midnight and 2 a.m. and, as is wont to do, has not left me alone, completely consuming me. And I always know that's a really good indication that I should go live and share with you the contents of my soul and my heart and let you know what it is that I'm really wanting to embody myself. And of course, sharing is the most powerful way. A Course in Miracles tells us that, teaching is demonstrating. And I guess what I really want to remind myself of and remind you of, if you're interested in hearing that today, is about the idea of the spiritual seeker's path and the absolute hands down privilege, luxury, indulgence that it is to have the space and time in our lives to even ask the question, is there something bigger? Is there a deeper meaning to my life? Is there a higher purpose guiding who and what I am? Is there a reason that I want of something for the world bigger than just my own desires being met? And yes, Katie Cruz, as I was purchasing this, I thought all third level priestesses should have this shirt. I just found it yesterday. I'll send you the link and we can all have matching Fizz t-shirts. We can wear them on the Gold Coast. So I want to get to the real commitment that we make when we go on this path of spiritual seeking and what it's really about and what are we actually doing. And I feel more than anything, I want to encourage us or help us to find a way to move beyond believing that this spiritual path, which so often chooses us, that we do not get a choice about, is not a burden. It's not like a heavy weight of responsibility that, oh my God, I have to go and investigate my fear, and I have to, if you're doing it the way I teach you to do it, that I have to continually be in this state of having to try and look for the deeper meaning, and I can never be at peace, and it's all this big responsibility, and I have to meditate, and I have to be a good person, and oh my God, it's such a burden. And I actually want to shift all of that. I want to shift our thinking today to recognize the absolute privilege that it is to be free enough to go in pursuit of your soul and to look for that deeper meaning of your life. Now, if you're in survival mode in your life, and I mean you're actually in survival mode, not just you're tricking your body into thinking you're in survival mode, and I'll break down the difference between those two things. But if you don't know how you're going to feed your children at night, or you don't know where you're going to sleep, or you don't know how to keep your family safe, or you live in war, or you live in poverty, or you live in enslavement, then you will very rarely have the privilege or the time or the space, the luxury of being able to investigate the deeper meaning or the higher purpose. There is no space around you. There's an order of needs, a hierarchy of needs, and all of your needs all of your energy is being channeled into meeting those basic survival needs. So this is what happens in our world, in our privileged world, is that so often we can kid ourselves or trick our body mind, to use Joe Dispenza's term, into thinking that we're in survival mode, into thinking that the deeper search for our life's purpose, or that meeting our unmet subconscious fear, or that any of those quests that come up on the path of the spiritual seeker are somehow akin to being in literal survival mode, and will behave as though we are vulnerable, and will behave as though we are burdened by this responsibility. And instead of absolutely embracing the freedom and the capacity we have to alter the world by embodying our path, we'll behave as though we have a heavy burden to carry. I wish I was just like that person over there who hadn't woken up. I I wish I didn't have to be the kindest person in the room. I wish I didn't have to go and meet God in meditation. I wish I didn't have to always be responsible and accountable and not, be abusive to other people, because that is the responsibility of being on this path of awakening. And I'm calling bullshit on that. You have a privilege like no other. You have the most luxurious indulgence, which is that you have space and time in your life, no matter how small it is, no matter how insignificant it might feel. You might think, well, I could always do with more time. The fact that you've even had the space in your life to ask the question, what is the deeper meaning of my life? And how may I affect things positively for others, means that you are living in a privileged state of reality. And this is where the spiritual can become political. We cannot change the world, in my opinion, by standing on the picket lines and having redundant conversations about shitty politicians and gun laws and, the state of the affairs of the world. But we can change the world by holding a different vibration. And that vibration is what sets the tone for all others. It's said that 7 billion people don't have to wake up. 7 billion people do not have to have a spiritual awakening. We just have to reach a tipping point. So I invite all of my students to be that tipping point when I teach them. And I'm inviting you the same today. Be the tipping point. Instead of seeing your awakening journey, and every time you have to meet fear, and every time that you get the privilege and the space and the time to meet subconscious fear and become free and fierce, instead of seeing that as some kind of burden that makes it difficult for you to be able to have chit chat at parties anymore, or enjoy getting drunk because suddenly you're attuned to a higher vibration and those things of no interest to you, put those things down easily. Put those things down knowing that what you inherit, what you are moving towards, is so gracious and so luxurious and so potent and so powerful that if you truly surrender to it, not for 1 minute will you regret your choice. But you have to change your mind about yourself, okay? And this is where we have to really move out of believing that somehow we are stuck in survival mode when we're not. If we're watching this right now, we are more free than we can possibly imagine. And with that comes divine responsibility. It is your right. If you are here, if you are free enough to be able to watch this, if you're free enough to be able to know where your child's next meal is coming from, if you know how you're going to protect your family by the roof you're going to put over their head, and you've been able to spend some time reading a book and thinking about the deeper meaning of life, then that becomes your divine responsibility to hold a vibration rather than to let yourself be consumed by this false belief that you are now burdened with the responsibility of awakening. You are the light bearer. You are the priestess. You are the one now who must hold that responsibility, that divine responsibility, with grace, and not to put it on yourself as though it's some kind of special and privileged burden and that somehow you have to do this all by yourself. You're missing the point. If your spiritual seeking feels like a dead weight around your neck, if you feel like it's made your reality harder, then you simply haven't gone to meet yourself in the way that you're being invited to do, and you are pretending that you have a problem. And I guess that's what I want to call time on. I kind of want to call bullshit on this idea that you have a problem at all. You don't have a problem. But until you change your perception of reality, and until you change your mind about what you are, you will simply keep replicating the behavior of someone who is in survival mode. You will keep reacting from that fight or flight response. You will keep pumping the stress hormones around your body that will keep your body mind in a state of believing that you are a victim of circumstance. And you are not. You are the creator of consciousness, of reality. So what you need to do is you need to stop thinking of yourself as a human being with this limited, finite reality, with this limited capacity to affect change. Yes, thinking like a human, embodying yourself only as, solid matter, will have severe limits on your capacity to create, to see yourself as pure consciousness. We must change our mind about ourselves from the idea that we are matter and begin to embrace the truth that we are actually just vibration. That we are pure energy, or to put it another way, pure consciousness. And that everything that we inhabit is actually just reflecting that truth back to us. We get to choose the reality that we inhabit. And why would we not want to own that? Why would we not want to embrace that? Well, it's the same reason that you pretend you're in survival mode when actually you just have so much freedom, so much power, so much control, so much authority, is that you are terrified of those things. You are terrified of the divine responsibility that has been thrust upon you. That if you are free enough to be on this path of spiritual seeking, if you're free enough to ask the deeper questions of what is life all about, that means that you cannot stop there and you cannot make that seeking a burden, but that you must hold a different vibration. No, it is not going to be easy. It doesn't need to be easy. Why does everything have to be easy? Why can we not go towards developing those muscles of the spirit that we develop in our body? You know, why can we not go fearlessly towards becoming, you know, absolute ninja warriors of the soul? We do not have that spiritual steel, that spiritual metal that means that we will devote ourselves to our practices, that we will get up half an hour earlier, that we will, you know, wake in the middle of the night if we're called to do so. We want everything to be comfortable and everything to be easy, and we want our spiritual seeking to take away all the troubles. We don't want to have to deal with looking at the deeper meaning of life. We want it to all be an antidote, a band-aid that covers up the things that we are afraid to look at. And I'm inviting you this day to recognize that that is not what we're here to do. We're not here to simply, to use the beautiful Amy Lou's idea, to just stand and be happy in your own little patch of the earth. That's not the reason that you're awakening, dear one. And that's not the reason that your soul is agitating to meet its own power. You are being given an invitation to change the world, to change human consciousness, to move beyond the trinkets and superstitions, which is just actually spiritual retail therapy, and to actually go and meet yourself as God made manifest, and to live from that place of power. But yes, you will have to change your mind about yourself. You will have to put down the belief that you have a difficult life, and that life is burdensome and heavy, and that one person who said that one mean thing to you is cause for you to go into 6 weeks of self-doubt. You do not get to go into that state of self-pity, because the truth is, if you could look at your freedom and truly own it, you would recognize that it is a divine gift, and that your path of spiritual seeking is so that you may serve, not just so you can stand in your own little patch of the earth. I invite you to recognize that it is us who stand at the front line of spiritual awakening who will alter the fabric of reality. We will be the tipping point. If only we can get over ourselves, if only we can get over our own shit, if only we can get out of our own heads and our own egos and our own pity stories and our stories of helplessness and hopelessness, and say, no, I can choose to change my mind about myself. And that is the greatest freedom that I have. And I put down the story that I am small and limited and finite. And today I take up the mantle of the priestess. I take up the mantle of the god or the goddess, and I say without fear that it changes with me, that my choice, as we know, the holograph is the part contains the whole, that my choice to see myself differently has a ripple effect in the field that will alter the fabric of how everybody else sees themselves, so that I may change the paradigm of reality in that way. That is our power as the spiritual seeker. We do not do this work for ourselves alone. So I guess I'm asking for you to meet yourself today, beyond using your spiritual seeking as a way to pathologize your fear and to constantly be looking at yourself as a problem and to become self-obsessed in the pursuit of understanding your fear, rather to recognize that the only reason we do that, the only reason we meet our fear, is to become fearless, not to become self-obsessed with the backstory of why we cannot be free, but to recognize that if you are watching this, you are more free than you can possibly know. And that with that soul's yearning to liberate consciousness, that all you have to do is make a better choice, and to make it right now. All right, dear beloveds, I feel like that's really what I wanted to say. And as I said, it woke me up in the middle of the night, and when these things arrive in my consciousness, there is no choice but to share them. And I have lots and lots more that I want to share with you, but I think that's it for today. That is the story I wanted to share, that you are free. And you're free to change your perception of yourself. And as you do that, your perception of reality will change. And then you will see your life as a force for good, not as a constant, what can I get? What can I get? What can I get? As an antidote to my own feelings of discomfort, but rather, what may I give? Have the most beautiful weekend, and if you're about this evening at about 8 p.m. Melbourne time, come on over to I Am Spiritually Fierce, where we are beginning the Postgrad Summit. The Institute Postgrads are taking over I Am Spiritually Fierce for a week, beginning with Amy Lou this evening, and no doubt she's going to blow our minds with her magnificence. Mwah! I'll see you all very soon.